And as I discuss my family, that's my testimony of the gospel. I can mention any one of them, and that's my testimony of the gospel. My family is my testimony. And when Janie writes a song called Families to Match the Mountains, it touches me and it brings tears to my eyes because I know what she's talking about. Those mountains are vast and granite up there, but the family is able to do things and have blessings from our Heavenly Father that are beyond our ability to repay, and it's an amazing Mormon church. It was John Ernest Thompson, my grandfather, and I like to make a joke out of that. He was 5'7" and I was 6'5", so I guess I'm the tallest one of his descendants, and that I don't know how I happened. In fact, I look at it and I really didn't think I was legitimate until I was 21, and then I started to believe it, because when I smile I got the same nose Sam has, so I guess. I came back from Germany and I went to Bill Bosworth, who is really, I don't know exactly how to say, just say he's a distant cousin, and he lived in Harrogate, and that's where I wanted to go. And I wanted to stay overnight with him and get to know Harrogate, where my grandfather was born and raised, the one who was converted to the Mormon church. And this is the story I want to tell you. But Bill is not a member of the church. He's a Methodist. And I came into his home, and he sat very proper on the front of his chair. And I can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm not, I'm just not gauged to be that way. But all I can say is that British gentlemen are very proper, and that's something that a person from America just cannot fathom it. It's taken me 20 years to start knowing what I saw 25 years ago. And his wife told me that Bill was a male secretary, and that he drove his car down the wrong side of the street to York every day to take notes in shorthand, in ink, and that he was very proper in his station of being above the common lot of people. And I think I better insert here some statistics. In America, 90% of kids graduate from high school, and all kids can go to high school if they want to. Anybody can go to high school. But in Europe, and this includes England and all of Europe, it doesn't matter where you go, 80% of kids do not get to go to high school, and only 20% of kids get to go to high school. You've got to understand that, because for an American descendant of these people, you look at them through your eyes, and it isn't the same. You've got to know that Grandpa was able to have the very best education. He was a gentleman, English gentleman. But Grandma, when she was, I'm not sure how old she was, but when she was about 14, a young teenager, her father died. And he was a butcher, a very good butcher. But Grandpa, whose father was a town, I'll say town, over here we'd call it a city alderman, but the town of Harrogate, you know, we'd call it a city in Idaho. In England, it's a town. Had his name in 2-inch lettering, John Thompson, as a town alderman on the plaque in the middle of the city. And it says right on the plaque, of the Royal Order of the Bath, which is the second order of England, which puts him near aristocracy. And as I study the situation, I guess it was not just John, it was his wife, Carolyn Knapton, that was the aristocracy of the family. He was actually telling me about the caste system of England. He said if his sister walked down the sidewalk and he saw her coming a block away, that he would have to cross the street and go up the other sidewalk, so he would not have to greet his sister on the sidewalk, because she had married the baker, and that was beneath his station. You see, he lived in the proper part of town, and she, married to the baker, would not be in his echelon of society. And then he went on, and to send this home, to make it more solid, he told me that his other sister married the butcher, and he couldn't greet her on the street either. And when I heard him say this, I just never went down into my mind. But it's come back to me over the years, and I understand now what he was saying a little bit. Maybe I over-understand it. I don't know. But I think in this story you need to understand the caste system of England. When Bill Bosworth drove me to his own mother's home, he didn't park on the sidewalk. He went around and parked in the alley up under a tree and went in the back door. And I never realized at the time that his mother's home was in the wrong part of town, and that he was taking his car and taking himself into a wrong area to be seen, and I didn't catch this. His Auntie Flo, he took me up to see his Auntie Flo, and I went up there. She had 8 people in the room between her and me, and I had to go from one desk to the next and check in and tell them who I was to get to her. But she, being a lady, and I being an American, understood my situation, and when I looked up and I could see her over there and all the red tape between her and me, any Englishman would have had to have gone to each desk and checked in before they could have gotten to her, and the problem would have been taken care of before they got to her. In other words, she wouldn't have to meet anyone unless she wanted to. But when I came in and announced myself as her relative from America, she stood up and greeted me right through the room over the top of all these people. And this was quite an awakening to me of the caste system of England, which still exists in England today. I never understood it. When I was in Europe, when I was in Germany, the German gentleman would open the door and bow, and I, being a, I'll say stupid American, didn't know how to be polite, so I just walked on through and said thank you. And that made me the VIP, a very important person, and I let them treat me like a gentleman because I didn't know any better. 2 Germans coming that door, one would open the door and bow, and the other one would say, oh no, you first, and then he would say, oh no, you first, and they'd have a big argument, and he'd get into a fight before one of them went first because they'd have to be polite. In American, the definition of a gentleman is different from the English definition of a gentleman. Okay, John Ernest Thompson. Let me hold up his picture. Let me put up my father's picture first. Can you catch that, Jay? I want you to look at this picture because he's about my age in this picture. I'm 56. And I think J. Henry is about that age in this picture. This is when he was bishop of the Malta ward. I want you to see how anemic I look alongside of him. My father was 6'1". He was able to do 100 push-ups every day on his mission. I do 10. He was quite a, what's the word? A specimen, that's the word. He was a specimen. When Dr. Sater examined him, he says he was the specimen of all examinations that he made. In Southern Idaho, this man was the way that a man ought to be. He was well formed, well muscled, and in good shape. So this is J. Henry Thompson. John Henry Thompson, raised in England. His name was Harry, but they called him Harry, without an H, Harry. Harry was his name until he got married, and his wife named him J. Henry. And from then on, he was J. Henry and not Harry anymore. So this is J. Henry Thompson. He had perfect penmanship, and you should see his signature on a check, and I'm hoping that we can get Jay to take a shot of that so you can see it. He was great in mathematics, and he was postmaster for 42 years in Malta, Idaho. So I was raised the son of a bishop and the son of the postmaster in Malta, and we used to make jokes out of it. Everybody in Malta would joke about Dad and say, did you hear about the big fight? J. Henry licked the stamp. Well, as postmaster, that's supposed to be funny, and it was when I was a teenager. These are the 2 I want to talk about. This is John Ernest Thompson and Jane Bosomworth Thompson. I don't want to get a glare on that. I'm trying to set this so you won't get a glare. John Ernest Thompson, 5'7", married the butcher's daughter, and this cut him off from, almost cut him off from his estate because he married beneath his station. I think you understand that now, and I'd like to tell that story a little bit. I wish I could sit still and let you look at them while I tell the story. But that's the gentleman, John Ernest Thompson. And this is the butcher's daughter, Jane Bosomworth Thompson. Like